The power of choosing happy. I think what this means for me is it refines something that sounds so esoteric and and abstract into something that's really quite simple and very powerful. And that is that in the moments of the day, in the moments, as we live, we get to choose and grasp power for ourselves in how we look at scenarios, how we respond to them, not react to them, that represent our commitment to being happy. There's something to be said for people who are just, default toward being optimistic, and sometimes they go past the edge of the spectrum, and now we call them delusional. But there's, that's one end of the spectrum potentially. But I think what's really quite fascinating that we get to own is this idea that we choose how we respond to different scenarios. And more than just choosing how we respond, we get to set up and ingrain and program our minds so that we're connected to what's going to serve us the most powerful way. And that is a feeling of positivity. That is a feeling of opportunity. That is a feeling of growth and abundance and development. And all of that comes from this place of, in my opinion, being happy and choosing to be happy, choosing to sit and embrace a sense of gratitude. The items that help us along the way to really being in a space where we can embrace that happiness come from a commitment to how we want to vibrate, how we want to go through our day, come from embracing disciplines and tactics and tools that will help us to be in a mindset where we're better able to embrace, absorb, and respond to the different stimuli that come at us on a daily basis. We look at, ways in which we can really embrace modalities that help us to cope in those challenging moments. And we look for ways in which we can understand and better disempower some of the traumatic experiences that we've experienced over time. But fundamentally, it's as simple as embracing a notion that says, I am going to choose to be happy. It's something inside of us that we get to say that this is how we are going to be. It means that when we take a walk and we see someone and we say, a good morning to them in such an authentic and powerful manner, and you see in that moment how it impacts them. You see that smile that goes from a face of concern and a face that's sort of all their struggles and challenges are weighing heavily on them, to just this exchange of energy where someone is actually saying in that moment, in a very authentic way, good morning or hello. And, I feed off of that. I feed off of the fact that in that moment, I was able to make that person realize that they can embrace, they can shift, they can feel a little bit better. And that helps me to sort of fuel my fire of quote unquote happiness. But as we go through life, I read a lot of books, and some of these books have served me in great stead in my journey. And, they go everything from The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari to Science of Getting Rich to, autobiographies and, Esther and Jerry Hicks and Ask and It's Given's a fabulous book. But I think one of the books particular to this topic that really resonates with me and has really sort of simplified this notion is called Happiness is the Way by Wayne Dyer. And it's quite remarkable how, he really broaches a broad spectrum of topics in that book, but they all come back to a very, very simple yet powerful idea. And that is that we get to choose how we respond to scenarios. And once we fully own the responsibility that how we look at a scenario, how we allow our mind to be impacted is 100% our choice. It's daunting because we don't want to feel like, us being angry or us being disappointed or us being saddened is our fault, right? It's our choice. Who chooses to be sad? But the reality is, if we default to whatever emotion comes up out of us, it is a choice, because we can at the same time choose to be happy and choose to be positive and choose to be interpreting that activity in a manner that serves us. And that's one of the powerful tenets that come out of that book is, if I'm in pain because I've been exercising and now I have some kind of strain and I want to say, oh my God, my leg is hurting. That's my choice. It's my choice that when someone says, hey dog, how you doing? I haven't spoken to you in ages. How is everything? Oh, I'm good, but my leg. It's my choice. It's my choice if I want to dwell on that thing that is not serving me. It doesn't mean that we have to cover up. It doesn't mean that we have to try to be something that we're not in terms of not being authentic and real and sharing. I think it's important to share. I think it's important for us to acknowledge feelings that are not positive, that are not great. The important part is, and the big distinction is, whether there's acknowledgement or whether there's that decision to sort of sit and languish in it. And it's okay for me to say, ouch, my leg hurts. And then, no, I got to get on with my day. I've got to embrace all the opportunities that are in front of me. I got all these wonderful things to be grateful for. I got to look and say, okay, you know what? I can't do 10,000 steps today in the same speed or tenor that I normally would, but I can do 3,000 this morning. And maybe later on this afternoon, I'm going to do 500 because I'm focused on when my leg gets better. I'm focused on, I need to keep it moving. I'm focused on, I need to not overexert, but I need to also not do so little that it doesn't help to heal it. And the most important thing in all of that is how I look at it. And that for me is where, I go through my days, and that's truly what I try to do. I don't always get it right, and nobody does. There's the things that happen that upset me, that anger me, that disappoint me. But I think the important part is, and this is the work in progress, is to be intentional about that commitment to vibrating in a place that serves me and being mindful when I'm not there. Being mindful of being able to say, shoot, I shouldn't have lost my cool. I shouldn't have responded that way. I shouldn't have felt, woe be me, it's not working out. It's okay that I did. I recognize it, but now I got to let it go. Now I got to sit here and say, today is a little bit tougher than normal. This happened. It's bringing me down. And I know that it's only going to get better when I shift my mind. It's going to get better quicker when I shift my mind. So maybe I now need to look at some of the modalities I can take on. Meditation, breath work, affirmations, whatever the tools are that serve me. I think, again, you come back to that commitment to how you want to live. Do I want to live positive? Do I want to live proactive? Do I want to live in a world of possibility and taking the steps to realize it? Or do I want to live in a world where people should understand how much I've accomplished because of all the problems that I've had to endure? That people should somehow empathize for me and with me. Some people should stroke my back, so to speak, because I've had to navigate all these challenges. When the truth of the matter is, any time in my life, subconsciously or otherwise, I've had cause to share my problems with other people, and then they've reciprocated. I've always wanted to grab my problems up real quick and get out of the room because I don't want their problems. My problems don't seem so bad. It's my little bucket of challenge that I want now to embrace fully and hold on to, because they pale in comparison to what other people endure. And it's not about competing. It's not about those comparisons. It's about the recognition that we have so many wonderful things, all of us in our lives, to be grateful for. And when we tune into that gratitude, when we tune into the fact that with all these blessings, yes, there are challenges. Yes, of course there are challenges. But if I actually focus on these blessings and how grateful I should be to have them, how fortunate I am, then I can contextualize these other things and I can knock them off one on one, or I can understand that some of these things may never go away, but they're just a part of my construct that is in this whole big picture. And that's what I feel is truly important for all of us as we go through. But again, I want to reiterate the point is, I truly believe is that we choose. We choose. We get cut off in traffic and we get upset. We choose to get upset, because just as similarly, we can choose to let it go. We can choose to focus our minds on other things. And when you first start doing this, it's very difficult and it seems impractical, and it seems like, why am I exerting all this energy to think that bad thing is not a bad thing? You're not doing that. That's not actually what you're doing. You're building a practice to say, I am not going to get derailed easily from the vibration and the mind space that I want to occupy. Because this vibration, this mind space will serve me in the life that I want to lead for myself. And I have the ability to choose this. And when I'm going here, when I'm getting annoyed, when I'm getting upset at things that really sometimes are not significant, they're a reflection sometimes of our own ego. Why did that customer service person speak to me in that manner? Why didn't the waiter respond when I was asking for some more water in the way that I think I should have been treated? Those are not real issues, really. Those are ego issues. Those are things that are coming from the inside. But when we're focused and committed to vibrating in a different space, it's my humble belief that we now have the ability to process those things differently because we can catch ourselves. First, we might react and respond, and we can then look at that and say, why did I do that? Why did I allow myself to move from where I want to be to a place where I have been, but I don't want to be anymore, right? Once we can recognize that, then the next thing is not to beat ourselves out about it. We have to be accountable for it. We have to recognize it. And then we have to look at what are some of the tools that I can now implement to help me get out of that? What are some of the thoughts that I can infuse in my mind every morning to help me think more positively, to help me think more in a place of opportunity and abundance and gratitude? Those are some of the things that we have to infuse in ourselves until these things become part of our new programming. Discipline, that's another component in terms of this continuum to get to a place where it's easier to choose happy. Is, when we tell ourselves that we're going to wake up at a certain time, we're going to exercise, we're going to, eat certain things or not eat certain things, we're going to drink certain things or not drink certain things. When we are active in making those choices and then we implement that brings us so much discipline, and that internally helps us to realize that when we say we're going to do something, we're in a better place to be able to do it. So when we say we're going to choose to be happy and choose not to be so reactive or choose not to be so quick to anger or sadness or a sense of violation or what have you, then those other tools help our minds in knowing that we are capable of doing those things. And I think it's so important that we do live healthy lives, not because it's a judgment, but because it makes us feel better about ourselves. And no matter where we are, we can always feel better about that one step that we take. If we're on a path to say, I want to lose 50 pounds, well, that's 4 pounds a month, right? So in the first month, if I apply myself and I lose my 4 pounds, I say, great. Maybe I slip in month 2. In month 3, I recognize that, but I also know that I was able to do it in month 1, so I can step it back up and get on my rhythm. And I think it's important, very important for us to have those sort of disciplined foundations and embrace those things, because now we start to really live in our power. And that's, for me, what really this whole notion of choosing happy comes back into, is a recognition that we have this power in ourselves to govern ourselves, to manage ourselves, because everything that we experience, it comes from the mind. It's the lens through which we look at those things that determines the impact that they have on us. And so I go back to, again, it has to be this commitment, because the commitment, sort of drives everything else that comes after that. It has to be this mindset of being aware of what we're choosing, which is to have this different perspective than we may have had in the past. And then it's identifying what some of these disciplines are. What are some of the practices and the new habits that we need to program into our days to put us in a better position to be able to absorb what life brings us on a daily basis, and also now control for it and move forward in a way that serves us. And so again, I repeat, it could be affirmations, it could be exercise, it could be eating properly, it could be meditation, breath work, all of these different elements that we can bring that reflect that discipline and that choice are critically important. And finally, I think it's important that we look at what some of the tools are, because that book really resonated with me. I can't say anything more powerfully than that. And yes, it's all a journey, and there are many other books that I've read and many other things I've listened to that have helped to properly prepare me, I think, to absorb those lessons. But while it resonated with me, it was also something that, someone very close to me, I gave it to them to read. I've given to many people that book to read. But, my sister said that it's powerful in its simplicity. But it can also be very difficult for some people to embrace, because in a way it's sort of disempowering some of their traumas or their experiences, or could be seen to be doing that. And that's a very fair point, because while I do subscribe to the notion that the power is in the simplicity and the messaging is absolutely on point, the reality is, how do we get people onto a track? How do we encourage them onto a track when they've lived a lifetime of processing certain things with this sense of a lack of power, a lack of control, a lack of authority about how some of those experiences inform their choices today, inform their responses to certain scenarios today? And so, while there's therapy and while there's various coaching practices and books to read and so on and so forth, which I think people should absolutely choose what works best for them once they've got this commitment to being in a different mind space. I also feel very strongly in the work that I do that psychedelics can play a large part in helping people to process some of the traumas that they've endured. We've all had trauma, that's the reality of it. We've all had it, and some of us think that we're exceptional at coping with it. We put our trauma in a little box, and we put that little box inside of as we get older, that box goes inside of a drawer, and then that drawer goes inside of a cupboard, and that cupboard goes inside of a room, and so there's all this space that's taken up to sort of insulate us from that trauma, and all these coping mechanisms that we have become habits with, and inform our responses because of that little trauma that's little, contextual to the amount of space that we're giving around it because of the impact it now has on us. And what psychedelics help us to do in that process is to, remap how we interpret that trauma. So why I find it personally has been so therapeutic and so transformative. And this is a messaging I get from other people who've done psychedelics, as well as some of the patients and guests that we've served in our ceremonies and our retreats, is it allows us to venture into the room, open the cupboard door, open the drawer, take out the trauma, look at it, understand it, see it, but invert the power. So now that we know it for what it is, it's true, it's real, it happened. Right? Those are real circumstances. There's nothing that's disempowering or trying to change that narrative. What is different, and so many people have experienced, and I'm personally speaking to this, is that sense of, instead of this thing holding the power over the whole now is able to contextualize it. This happened to me. This was not good, but now I can see it for what it is, and I can move on. I can be the fuller version of myself without this undermining or distracting or somehow disempowering my ability to proceed on the path that I really want for myself. And so in getting to this place, this journey of really where we can live and embrace this sense of happiness, for folks who have had traumatic experiences, and like I said, we all have in some way, shape, or form. Even those of us who pat ourselves on the back or have in the past to say that we're well-functioning human beings. We've processed our stuff and we're good. Psychedelics have been very revealing for me to realize that there were things that I didn't realize were packed away in the drawer, in the cupboard, in the room. And so they have been very liberating for me in terms of my journey to sort of step into the person that I want to be for myself. And so I encourage folks to take a look at that, but also in the context of this wider journey, this wider commitment to living in a place where they are happy, living in a place where, when you go to that 9 to 5 that you don't really love what you do, you're more committed to finding the parts about it that you do love. You're more committed to the fact that, here's a company and it's using your skill set. On the 25th, you get paid, and that allows you to have this wonderful weekend with your family, twice a year that you go on vacation as well. You don't have to worry about, maybe medical and health and dental issues because of, what it facilitates for you. These are the pieces that, I think when you start to get to a place of choosing happy, gratitude becomes such an incredible foundational concept for you that you're constantly reminding yourself of all the blessings. And in that construct, it's a lot more difficult to be unhappy around things that aren't quote unquote perfect, because they facilitate some other part of your living that allows you to be grateful. And I think once you get to that place of really, really wanting to be happy on an ongoing, consistent basis, it becomes pretty simple over time to contextualize disappointments, challenges, things that people have done that are just egregious and unkind or, unethical, or any slew of different attacks, if you will, or disappointments. Because you now have a basis within, you're putting it into a different bucket, and you're choosing to look at these positive elements, and it allows you to process those differently. They don't go away by themselves, you have to address them, but you have the power to approach them knowing that they don't determine how you feel. They don't have to inform how you go to sleep that night. They don't have to inform beyond that moment where sometimes we all lose that ability to control that response and we react. It's only for that moment. There's 1,440 minutes per day, and every 60 seconds is comprised of moments. Someone says something that's offensive or says something that's unkind or rude. If we take 5 seconds to just count, 5 seconds, the difference that makes in how we respond to it is a difference between now, actually sabotaging our own day, because now we've said something, we've reacted, and there's consequences for that. If sometimes it's just energetically, it's just now, I was having a beautiful day, this happened, it upset me, I reacted, I said something I feel like I shouldn't have said, or I didn't want to say, or I was a person I didn't want to be, and now it's sullied. I've allowed that to sully the rest of my day just because of moments. And so I go back and I say, from my perspective, once you have that commitment, once you're locked into that belief that this is the way I want to lead my life, you become intentional about how you choose to do that, the sort of information, the people, the energy that you let into your life. And you're also accountable for the fact that you choose in those moments how you respond to various stimuli. And you're also able to accept when you fall short of that own standard for yourself. You recognize it, you let it go, and you let it inform you for the future. You look and you say, I need to work on that moment tool that I need so that I don't let that happen to me again, and I don't respond. So that's my perspective. That's how I like to live my life. That's the energy that I like to infuse. And I feel everybody does walks their own path and their own journey, and I think that's what's very important. But I really feel that it has served me well, and it is serving me well. And if by sharing this with a couple of people, it helps to serve them as well, then I feel an immense sense of accomplishment, because, I think we should all strive to be happy. I think we should all want to live love, and that doesn't take away from being, productive and accomplished and driven individuals. It just contextualizes how we navigate the various moments of life. So with that said, I hope you choose happiness, and I hope you choose love and fulfillment and enjoyment. And I hope that when those other moments come along, we see them for what they are, temporary moments that we get to choose how we respond to, because we want to continue on our path towards self-actualization and happiness. Thank you.